You're riding shotgun with me, as always, is the tactical tackle himself, Tyler Witzke. Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
A little pissed off.
Little pissed off.
Yeah.
So, sometimes here at NAGR you draw the short straw and you have to sit through an old man's incoherent ramblings, bastardizing the Constitution, and that's what we ended up doing today. We're going to be watching... On a Monday morning, we got told we're going to watch Joe Biden announce the next phase of his gun control jihad, and that's what we're doing. So we appreciate all of you for tuning in live and joining us for this. We kind of know what he's going to say, but we're here for the gaffes more than anything. That's what will keep me going.
Yeah, and to summarize it up, is that okay if I give a little summary of what's going on?
Tell the people.
So, Joe Biden, first and foremost, is announcing his nominee to head the ATF because, Chipman wasn't good enough. We kicked his ass.
We smacked him down, popped him back.
And now it'll be the Steve
Dettelbach
fella.
Yep, sounds like a beer, but it's a dude.
Yeah, and he has been endorsed by Bloomberg's Everytown for Gun Safety Group, so he's on the wrong side.
Yep. He's pro assault weapons ban, so-called assault weapons, pro universal gun registration. He ran for AG in Ohio on basically Biden's gun control agenda. So he's a true believer in the gun control conspiracy. He may not be as controversial on the nose as Chipman was, but he would essentially be the same dude if he gets appointed to direct the ATF. They'd be pushing the exact same platform, so we need to fight back as hard as we did for Chipman to keep Dettelbach out.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a few more things, but it sounds like they're getting started here soon.
Yeah. At the top.
I hear people, but I don't see anything, so I guess we'll just be reacting to sounds.
This playbook offers
if we can
what, when, where, and
turn Jen Psaki's voice off before I throw up, that'd be cool.
For rural communities to
Please
plan
and thank you.
Compete for federal resources that create good-paying jobs.
Cool, thank you.
Please have a seat. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. President Joe Biden, members of Congress, members of our administration,
Kamala Harris,
friends,
Queen Gun Grabber.
and fellow Americans. When gunfire rings out in a community, it brings
Where's David
peace
Hogg?
and it brings pain to the victims, to those who love them, to the parents who tell their children to run into the bathtub when they hear gunfire on the street outside, because it is the safest place in the home from a stray bullet. Gun violence.
I feel like she's describing every gun control city.
Yep.
And by extension,
Sounds like Chicago.
to the whole
New York.
society.
Mm-hmm.
As a prosecutor,
Baltimore.
I brought many perpetrators
Detroit.
of gun violence to justice. But I knew, even after a successful prosecution, I thank you for your incredible determination in the face of so much pain. And it is a deep honor to stand with you today. As we know all too well, our nation continues to be plagued by an epidemic of gun violence. The president
In liberal
has worked
cities.
for decades to end this terror. For my whole career, addressing gun violence has been one of my top priorities, first as a courtroom prosecutor, then as the elected district attorney of San Francisco when we created a gun specialist unit to go after violent offenders, then as Attorney General of California, where we worked within our California Bureau of Firearms to investigate and seize firearms for those who unlawfully possessed them. I have seen firsthand how our nation's epidemic of gun violence has been driven by the proliferation of guns in our communities, and increasingly in recent years by the proliferation of ghost guns. Ghost guns,
Homemade, home manufactured firearms.
and assembled at a kitchen table.
What's wrong with
They
that?
can be bought without a background check
Assuming that you have a
by people
CNC
otherwise
mill on your kitchen table, I suppose.
Yeah, that's
from
true.
gun ownership. Domestic abusers, gun traffickers, individuals convicted of violent crimes, and even young children Traditional guns are required to have serial numbers, which can help law enforcement identify a firearm that has been stolen from its lawful owner.
Or if you
or
want
found
to
at
create
the
a
scene of
massive
crime.
database and eventually confiscate
Ghost
guns,
guns
serial numbers are good
have
for
no
that
serial
too.
numbers.
Preach it.
They are practically untraceable, making it more difficult for law enforcement to hold to account those who use weapons to do violence. Because of how easy they are to access and how difficult they are to trace, ghost guns pose an especially grave threat to the safety of our communities. That is why, as a United States Senator, I was proud to co-sponsor a bill to manufacture and end the manufacturing, of sale of ghost guns. And it is why we are here today, to announce new actions to get ghost guns off
Can't remember
our
the exact
streets
percentage,
and
but
to protect
ghost
our
guns account for
communities
like less than
from gun
2%
violence.
of guns used illegally.
What makes
But
you
here they're
think-
going to put on a
Department of
big
Justice
parade for
plays
themselves,
a
acting like they're
critical
friggin'
in
Superman over
addressing
here.
gun violence in our communities. And the actions we are taking today would not be possible without their partnership. So I'm proud to now welcome a leader who has spearheaded much of the department's work on this important issue, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco.
Bringing out the big guns. The Deputy AG.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President, Mr. President, Mia. There is no higher priority for the Department of Justice than keeping the American people safe. That is why every
And gun-free
day
zones.
we work with our
Please.
community
Keep people
and
safe.
law enforcement partners to combat violent crime through prevention and through prosecutions. Too often, though, murders and other serious crimes are committed with guns. Each victim of gun violence is someone's loved one, a neighbor, a friend. We stand together today in recognition of that loss and alongside all of those who have been touched by the tragedy of gun violence. We also stand together with resolve and with hope for the future. Just over 1 year ago, the President, the Vice President, and the Attorney General stood in this very spot to announce new steps to curb gun violence. One such critical step is reining in so-called ghost guns. These are guns that have no serial numbers. They are nearly impossible for law enforcement to trace. Many are sold without a background check. They're accessible to almost anyone. They often come in kits. They can be bought online. They can be assembled quickly with little or no training. That means that someone can convert parts in a box into a working gun with alarming ease.
If you have a mill.
Now, we call them ghost guns.
If you're a machinist.
because
Do they
can't be
not
traced.
know that there are literally
make no
books
mistake,
published out there teaching
They
people
are
how
real.
to build their own
They
guns
can
at
shoot
home?
to kill, and they do. For years, criminals have sought out these unmarked guns to murder and to maim. That's why the Attorney General has signed a rule that updates our regulations to keep up with changes in technology. The goal? To keep untraceable guns off of the streets, out of the hands of criminals and others who are prohibited by law from possessing a firearm. Some of the key changes include updating old definitions to ensure that gun laws apply to all firearms, including ghost guns, requiring gun dealers to run background checks on kits containing parts that can readily
Which
be
parts?
converted
It's going to get to the
into a
point where
gun.
every single part you buy, you're going to be paying for a
Facilitating
background check.
Bolt
by
carrier group,
requiring
trigger.
firearms
Upper's a
dealers
gun,
to
a lower's a
apply
gun,
serial
a
numbers
buffer spring's a
to
gun,
existing ghost guns
magazine, gun.
that they then take into inventory. Because of these updates, law enforcement will have additional crime gun intelligence to stop gun violence, to seek justice for victims of violent crimes, and to get guns used in crimes off of our streets. Today's announcement is one of many efforts by the Department of Justice to protect our communities from violent crime and gun violence. We continue to go after and disrupt illegal gun trafficking networks. We continue to go after and hold accountable the most violent offenders. And we are working every day with our partners in law enforcement and with community leaders to craft specific strategies to combat violent crime and keep communities safe. We will not stop until we reduce violent crime and save lives. As the
And
Attorney General has
confiscate
said,
everyone's
the
gun.
department will continue
Yeah.
to
If you own an
to
80%
apply
receiver right now
every
or built it
single
into a
tool
full gun,
at
you're a
our
criminal now.
disposal
Yep.
to fulfill that obligation.
Or 120 days from
And
now, I
it
think
my
is what
great
it is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
honor
120
to
days.
introduce Mia Tretta, an inspiring young woman whose story illustrates why we're here today and why these actions are so important. Thank you.
it's a little political grandstanding here.
Thank you so much, Deputy Attorney General. Good afternoon. As she said, my name is Mia Tretta, and it's an honor to be here today. And not just because it's the White House, but because I'm speaking on behalf of two classmates who can't be here with us, one of whom was my best friend. When I woke up on November 14th, 2019, my biggest worry of the day was a Spanish test. I was a freshman at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, California, determined to get good grades. So as soon as I got to school, I made a beeline for the quad to meet up with my best friend, Dominic Blackwell. It's hard for me to talk about Dominic. Like me, Dominic had big dreams, liked doing well in school, and planning for our futures. We spent the morning like any other, laughing, talking, until we heard a loud pop. It was a gunshot, followed by 6 more. One of the bullets hit me in the stomach. Somehow, I was able to get up and run away, but Dominic couldn't. I was airlifted to the hospital and spent hours in surgery having a bullet removed from my abdomen that was millimeters away from my major artery. Then my parents told me the terrible truth. Dominic had died, and so had another classmate, Gracie Ann Muehlberger, a 15-year-old girl with an infectious laugh. And a community was left shattered. I later learned that we had been shot by a 16-year-old student, for reasons I will never know. He had brought his father's weapon to school, a firearm I would come to know as a ghost gun. Ghost guns are untraceable,
So he was already
build-it-yourself
breaking the law
firearms
before.
that look
What's
like a
that?
gun
He was already breaking the
Shoot
law
like a
before
gun.
he started shooting.
and kill
Yeah,
like a
I mean,
gun.
ghost gun ban in
But not
California
been
already.
regulated
Freaking
Yeah.
like a gun.
I mean, you're
And-
16 years old. You can't possess a gun anymore.
I've also learned that as a student,
And
I don't just have to
did
worry
the fact
about
that it
Spanish
was a
tests.
unserialized or
What about my
homemade
life?
firearm make it any more deadly?
School
No.
shootings with ghost guns
What
are
makes
on the
things deadly
rise.
is the gun-free school zones
And the most
act, where
lasting thing I've learned,
no one's able to protect these
other
children.
than
Like
the
the story's
loss of
tragic, and
friends or the
the way
shattering
to
of my youth,
prevent it is
is that nothing
allowing
has,
responsible adults to be armed on a
that
school
nothing
zone.
has relieved the pain in my heart like working to prevent
Yeah,
more senseless
our good
shootings.
friend, Magnum Pack and Patriot, 50 caliber
So
Freedom
my
Award
family and
winner
I joined every
Thomas
Town for
Massey
Gun
has a
Safety,
bill to
Moms
end
Demand
gun-free
Action,
school
and
zones.
Students Demand Action. And we
So
work
if you
with
want to call on
thousands
your
of other
congressman
young
at
activists and survivors
20224-3121, that's the
prevent
Capitol
more things
switchboard,
like this
tell them to
happening.
sign on to that bill and
turned
support
my
it. Let's
pain into
get some
progress.
actual real protection for our
And that's why we're
children
here today.
while they're in schools, instead of
Celebrating
leaving them as sitting ducks
progress.
and making them vulnerable like this
Life-saving
poor
progress.
situation here. It's, you know, the left thinks that they have a monopoly on sympathy and caring about these situations. No, we care just as much as
Because
they do. We
now,
just have a pragmatic way of approaching it
finally,
and want our kids protected,
We
not
have a
left
president
defenseless.
who realizes
keep
that
in mind,
thoughts
a
and
ghost
prayers
gun ban
alone
would've
are not
Never
enough.
prevented this shit.
No. Yeah.
A president who has been standing up to the gun lobby for decades
And failing.
and winning. A president who has been standing up for survivors like me and so many others. A president who is taking bold, meaningful action to stop the spread of ghost guns. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great honor to introduce the strongest gun sense commander-in-chief ever to hold office, President Joe Biden.
No sniffing, Joe. Keep your nose to yourself. And it's become uncomfortable.
Really awkward now.
Break it up, break it up.
Break it up.
Okay.
Thank you. Whew.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Deputy Attorney General Monaco. And Mia, you're an incredible young woman. We spoke for a moment inside the Oval Office, and a lot of people here who have lost someone, and too many here have lost someone, know that no matter what the occasion, how celebratory.
We might be here for a while, man. He's on low battery
you have
today.
to
Yeah.
Repeat it. every
And we're
minute.
live, so we
It just
can't
happened a
we
moment
can't
can't
go
speed
to one
it
and a
up.
half times speed like we
Your
like to do.
your confidence and your intellect.
Get comfortable,
Really
folks.
impressive. I mean, they really are.
Grab that popcorn.
You know, I think most people here
Corn
can tell
pop.
you've gone through serious
He's a bad
loss.
dude.
Yep.
That the best way to deal with it is to find purpose. And you found real purpose. And you are impressive. And thank you for sharing your
You are
strength,
impressive.
for helping us remember your friend Dominic Blackwell and Gracie Muehlberger. You know, Dominic and Gracie's parents are with us today. Are you prepared to stand up? If I don't want to embarrass you, but would you stand up?
You're only embarrassing yourself, don't worry.
If you have a moment afterwards, maybe you can come in the Oval with me if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to talk to you.
Don't do it.
Frank and Nancy, Brian and Cindy, everyone here, as they say, feels your pain a little bit, particularly if they've suffered a serious loss. You've now joined a terrible fellowship of loss that many people have experienced. There are too many survivors and advocates here for me to name everyone today, but let me say, the loss in this crowd is incalculable. But so is the
The
strength.
loss of brain cells we're
So
all
is the
getting from
strength.
listening to you is incalculable.
I believe our nation will be safer for your bravery, and I really mean that. Survivors like me and Manny and Claudia, Los Angeles Deputy Sheriff who survived an ambush by a shooter with a ghost gun, represent individuals and families all across this country whose lives have been forever changed by a ghost gun. Some made national headlines, many others did not. Today we honor your strength and your action. A year ago this week, standing here with many of you, I instructed the Attorney General to write a regulation that would rein in the proliferation of ghost guns because I was having trouble getting them passed in the Congress. But I used
Don't
what
let
we
that
call
pesky Constitution get in the
regulatory
way, you know.
authority.
Where's the
A year
congressional
later-
action?
We're here to keep that promise. The gun lobby tried to tie up the regulators and paperwork for a long, long time. The NRA called this rule I'm about to announce extreme. It's
It is.
extreme.
Kind of an
Let
understatement.
me ask you, is it extreme to protect police officers? Extreme to protect our children? Extreme to keep guns out of the hands of people who couldn't even pass a background check?
To punish
Look,
law-abiding
the idea
American
that
craftsmen
Someone on a
for the
terrorist
acts of
list
criminals and madmen.
purchase one of these guns.
Preach it.
Is extreme.
The terrorist
it isn't
list that you
extreme,
get to write,
it's
President.
Basic common sense.
Not really.
You know, if you buy a couch you have to assemble, it's still a couch. If you order a package like this one over here that includes the parts you need, the direction of assembling a functioning firearm, you bought a gun. Take a look. Take a look at this.
Oh, he brought props. Yeah, you're like 3 feet away from the microphone,
Can't
microphone,
hear
you
you, bud.
doofus.
Yeah. Put it together. You
Not
won't.
hard to put together. Little drill, hand drill.
If it's that easy, put it
A
together.
little hand drill, man.
Take very long.
God, that would take forever.
Anyone can order it in the mail. Anyone. Folks, a felon, a terrorist, a domestic abuser can go from a gun kit to a gun as little as 30 minutes. Buyers aren't required to pass background checks because guns have no serial numbers, these guns. When they show up at a crime scene, they can't be traced. Harder to find and prove who used them. Meaning you can't connect the gun to the shooter and hold them accountable.
And I can't make
In
my
fact, the ATF
database.
reports that they've been able to trace less than 1% of ghost guns reported by law enforcement. So it makes sense that police across the country are increasingly finding ghost guns at crime scenes. And by the way, ghost guns can be, quote, rifles, essentially assault weapons as well. This is just one version of the kit you can buy. Last year alone, law enforcement reported approximately 20,000 suspected ghost guns to be to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
Of the millions
That's a
of firearms that were
tenfold
confiscated or
in these ghost
discovered or
guns from
unearthed.
2016. Tenfold in 5 years. These guns are weapons of choice.
Sounds like
for
rookie
many
numbers.
criminals. We're going to do everything we can to deprive them of that choice. And when we find them, put them in jail for a long, long time.
So what did criminals do before ghost guns?
Law enforcement
Yeah.
is sounding the alarm. Our communities are paying the price, and we're acting. Today, the United States Department of Justice is making it illegal for a business to manufacture one of these kits without a serial number. Illegal.
Yeah, and we're going to sue your ass,
Illegal
buddy.
for a licensed gun
Stay
dealer to
tuned,
sell them
folks.
without a
National
background
Foundation
check.
for Gun Rights filing suit against
Starting
this
today,
nonsense.
weapons like the one used in
See 'em in
Saugus
court.
High School and to ambush deputies with us that are here with us today are being treated like the deadly firearms they are. And if somebody sells the ghost gun to a federally licensed dealer, for example, a pawn shop, that dealer must make the firearm and mark it with a serial number before reselling it. All of a sudden, it's no longer a ghost. It has a return address. It's going to help save lives, reduce crime, and get more criminals off the streets.
Doubt
And
it.
this rule is
Makes a
only
lot of
part
sense.
of our strategy to go after ghost guns. In February, the Department of Justice launched a national ghost gun enforcement initiative, intensifying our efforts to bring cases against those who use ghost guns illegally. We're teaching investigators and prosecutors best practices, how to build these cases, and assigning a coordinator in each of the ATF field divisions to serve as a point person for helping federal, state, and local law enforcement go after ghost guns. If you commit a crime with a ghost gun, expect federal prosecution. Not just state, expect federal prosecution.
Shouldn't you get in trouble if you commit any crime with any gun?
Yeah, what the hell?
But that one didn't have a serial number,
This
so
rule is
you're,
an important step.
killing somebody with it's
It's
even
going to make
worse.
a difference, I promise you. And there are a lot of other things we know work to reduce gun violence and other violent crimes and save lives. That's why I put together a comprehensive strategy to supercharge what works
Supercharged.
while continuing to push Congress to act on sensible legislation to prevent gun violence. In addition to today's rule, we're working on 4 areas. First, we're going after rogue gun dealers. The last time we had
What?
data on this was more than 20 years ago. 5% of gun dealers sold 90% of illegal guns found at crime scenes. 5% sold 90%.
As long as the person
These
passes a
merchants of
background
death
check, that's not on the FFL.
Breaking the law for profit, selling guns that are killing innocent people. We're cracking down on these gun dealers and the violent criminals they knowingly arm. Second,
How about the violent criminals you armed with
we're
Fast and
disrupting
Furious?
illegal gun trafficking. Attorney General Garland has directed all U.S. attorneys to prioritize combating gun trafficking that is moving guns across state lines and city boundaries. The Justice Department is surging prosecutorial resources to help shut down these trafficking corridors, including the one known as the Iron Pipeline that funnels
How about the
weapons
southern border? Is that
from
not a
gun shops
trafficking
in states
corridor?
like Georgia
We don't
to
care about
crime
that one.
scenes
Pay
up
no
and down
attention
East
to the
Coast.
corridor beneath us.
Thirdly, we're funding strategies we know reduce gun crime, community policing, and community violence interruption. Look, I've said it many times. The answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police and give them the tools and training to support
It's a
they
little
need
different
to
than
be
what they
better
were saying
partners and
a year or
protectors of our
two ago.
communities need.
Prevailing wind.
Yeah.
And I've already made clear that I want cities, states, counties, and tribes to use some of the $350 billion we sent to them in the American Rescue Plan that I wrote in the first month to reduce gun violence, hire police officers for community policing, pay police overtime, purchase crime-fighting
Pass constitutional
technology.
carry. Have more responsible
They were
armed
given the
citizens
money,
on the
they can
streets to
do it.
protect from bad guys.
Spend it.
Amen.
It's free.
And now, on top of that, I'm calling for additional funding to put police on the streets for community policing. One thing we learned in the middle of the crime wave not long ago, when the cop knows by first name who owns the corner drugstore, who lives in the apartment above 6B, who the people who are the pastors of the churches,
It's gone off script.
guess what? People talk to them. They trust them. My son was the Attorney General in Delaware. He'd go around and make sure everybody literally in these high crime rate neighborhoods, he'd give them his personal
Not Hunter,
cell
is it?
phone number.
I'm waiting to
And
see when
instructed all
Corn
the
Pop
cops
pops
to do
into
the same
this
thing.
story.
And they did. And the crime plummeted. Not a joke. Look at the record.
The crime
Not just my
plummeted
son, but all across
when
the
Hunter
nation.
Biden moved out of town.
For the FT to hire
All of a
agents
sudden, drug
they
activity
need to help to fight
went out the
gun
window.
crime. More agents. My budget funds body cameras, make sure police work with our local communities and are accountable to the local communities. We're also investing in community violence intervention. These are areas of local programs that utilize trusted messengers, community members, and leaders to work directly with people who are the most likely to commit a gun crime or become victims of gun crime.
How do you know
Get
who's
to
going
them
to commit
early.
a gun
It
crime?
works.
Minority
Work.
Report, my friend.
Exactly.
They intervene before it's too late. Fourth, we're funding
You have an
jobs and
NAGR
training
sticker
for
on
young
your truck,
people,
you're gonna commit a
summer
crime.
programs,
I guess so.
drug treatment,
Lock this man
mental
up.
health, housing availability, criminal justice reform, and reentry support for people coming home after incarceration. Right now, you get let out of prison after serving your time, you get a bus ticket and $25. You end up under the same bridge you left 2, 5, 10 years earlier. If you serve your time, you qualify for Pell Grants, you qualify for housing, you qualify for food, you qualify to get back into the community. Give them a fighting chance.
So you can come
These
back
are
and
all
keep voting for
demonstrated
Democrats.
ways to reduce crime. And I'm strongly urging cities, states, counties, and tribes to use the rescue plan funding we sent them to do more in each of these areas.
All I'm hearing is more taxes
They
right
need
now.
to do more and do it quickly before the summer when crime typically surges around America.
Inflate, 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 inflate.
So, we're pushing in each of these areas. But none of this absolves Congress, with all due respect to my members of Congress here, they're the wrong people I'd be talking to.
With no due
For
respect for the
responsibility
people
to
here.
act, we need Congress to pass universal background checks.
No.
AKA universal gun registration. Make no mistake about
Universal
it.
background
I
checks.
love it when he whispers in the microphone.
I bet
And I
you
know
do.
it's controversial, but I got it done once.
Sicko.
Ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
The most popular legally owned guns in America. Semi-automatic rifles.
I was
and take
getting criticized when I first passed this law when I was a senator. And guess what? I was down in southern Delaware, do a lot of hunting and fishing down there.
Yeah, right.
No, you
And I was
don't.
walking up one of the creek beds. And the guy standing there said, "You want to take my gun?" I said, "I don't take your gun." He said, "Well, you're telling me I can't have more than X number of bullets in my gun."
No.
And I said, "What do you think, the deer you're hunting or wear Kevlar vests? What the hell you need?"
The same
20
joke.
Get a new freaking
Must be a
joke.
hell of a
It wasn't right the first time you said it. Why the hell would it be right the next 10 times?
terrible shot. I'm serious. Think about it. Think about the mass shootings. As many as 100 rounds. It's a weapon of war.
I can think of two that were stopped in Texas.
Nothing to do.
One of them with an AR-15.
Outright banning the sale and possession of unserialized guns. Eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. They're the only outfit. They're the only outfit in the country that is immune. Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to being sued. Come on.
Did you say
In
prostitute?
February, the families of 9 of the Sandy Hook shooting victims
I think he
received a
did.
settlement against the maker of guns.
Debbie, we
No,
despise
you
him
only hear
too.
what you want to hear, but
Sandy
Gosh.
Hook folks are here. Are you embarrassed to ask you to stand up?
again, the only embarrassment here is you, Joe.
These folks right here did more to keep all this going than anybody. We owe you, man.
Man.
That's a lady.
Never goes away, does it? God love you. Look, this is incredibly rare because gun manufacturers
More
are more
emotional
immunity from
appeals.
liability than any other American industry. So they've never had to take responsibility for the death and destruction their products cause. But as part of this settlement, Remington agreed to release thousands of pages of internal documents. He did that. And here's why it's so important. Remember, it wasn't until we saw the internal documents that we really understood what cigarette manufacturers are doing to our kids and our families. Now, we may begin to see what gun manufacturers are and are not doing when it comes to making and marketing their deadly products. And by the way,
Cars
this
are
sounds
deadly.
bizarre. I support the Second Amendment. You have a right.
That's
From the
cute.
very beginning, the Second Amendment didn't say you can own any gun you want, as big as you want. You couldn't buy a cannon.
Yes, you could.
Yes, you
In fact,
could.
the Second
Super
Amendment-
debunked.
And certain people from the very beginning weren't allowed to purchase guns. It's nothing
Yeah,
new,
it's called The
just a
Racist History of Gun Control, you
fact.
loser.
Look, this should be
Read a
just
book.
start.
Yeah,
We need to
certain
repeal
certain
the
people.
liability shield of gun
What do you
manufacturers
mean,
and finally hold
certain
them
people,
accountable
Joe?
for false advertising.
Is that what you want to go back to?
I'm gonna put you all back in chains. It's only been, there's only been one Senate who's confirmed the director of Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in
That
the
was a
Bureau's
struggle.
entire history. It used to be didn't require Senate action when I first got to the Senate.
About time for his
It's
afternoon
only been
nap.
one since it became required confirmation. This
That's
is an
almost
agency
3 in
whose
D.C.
mission
That's Biden's dinner
protect
time.
communities from violent criminals, illegal trafficking of firearms, acts of arson and bombing, and a lot more. The mission of this agency isn't controversial, it's public safety.
It's very
The irony of saying arson
We
when
support
talking about the
dedicated
ATF.
Men and women of the AFT, I'm proud
Word
to
Waco ring a bell?
nominate Steve Diddleman.
Oh, man, that's gonna be looped so many times.
Yep.
Steve.
It's immensely powerful. He served the Department of Justice for 2 decades. He worked side by side to support the work of federal, state, and local law enforcement, including AFT agents.
AFT. He did it again.
In case he was personally
Steve Dubba for the
tried as
AFT.
U.S. attorney, where the serial arsonist firebombed the courthouses and police headquarters in Mansfield, Ohio. For his work, Steve got death threats, but the defendant got 60 years. Steve also partnered with the community leaders and law enforcement to help prevent violent crime. He's worked with the police to combat domestic extremism and to take violent criminals off the street. Steve's record makes him ready on day one to lead this agency. And by the way,
Not happening,
Here
pal.
we go again.
2009,
Not happening.
The U.S. Senate unanimously confirmed him to serve as U.S. attorney.
You're
I
not
look
that guy,
forward to
Steve.
working with the Senate to get him confirmed
Not that
once
guy.
again.
Not
What
happening,
I,
buddy.
Know about him and why I'm so enthusiastic about supporting him. I'd like to introduce my nominee to lead the AFT to you.
AFT again.
Come on.
Again.
Boo. Boo.
Yeah.
Steve Dubba, AFT.
AFT.
Thank you, buddy. I'm just gonna stand up.
Look at this jabroni.
Lurchy looking creep. Endorsed by Bloomberg's Every
you,
Town for Gun
Mr.
Safety. That's all you
President.
need to know.
Yep.
Thank you, Vice President Harris, for your leadership in protecting the people of this
He's
nation.
a true
and for
believer
placing your trust
of the
in
gun
me
control
to
agenda.
become the next director of the ATF.
Not happening, pal.
I thought he said AFT. I'm confused.
What's he reaching for? What's Joe reaching
Thank you
for?
also, Deputy Attorney General Monaco, for all that you and Attorney General Garland continue to do at DOJ to make our nation safer.
Time to do some
and
kissing.
thank you, Mia, for your incredible inspiration and courage, not just here today, but all over this nation. Thank you. I also want to thank my incredible, supportive, and often patient family who are here. My wonderful wife, Carol, and my children, Allie and David, please.
He's 16 years old. I'm going to draft him.
What?
Is there an agent in the house?
That just
But
sounded
seriously,
creepy.
Most especially today, I want to thank the men and women of the ATF. You know, I started as a career prosecutor back in 1992, and I have spent 3 decades.
Thank you for harassing
watching
American
and admiring
businesses.
agents and staff at
Thank
the
you
ATF,
for killing
along with its federal,
Americans and
state, and local
dogs.
law enforcement partners as they work tirelessly
you're doing
and
great work.
courageously to protect the American people. I would also say they work in anonymity, but that would not be completely true. Because sadly, one thing I've also seen over the years is that the ATF often does work in anonymity when its agents are out there risking their lives to protect us, only to be
Harassing
thrust
FFLs.
into the public eye
For
when it's
killing one
time
dog.
for criticism.
You kill one dog, and
Law
it's like a
enforcement
real big
is
deal,
a
you
very
know?
tough
You
job,
burn down one building
and no
full of women
person
and children, and
and
it's
no
like,
agency
what's with all the
is
criticism?
perfect.
Yeah.
But the president is right. The men and women of the ATF and the public that they protect deserve better support from us.
They deserve to be abolished and on the streets, out of a job.
Amen.
Comment below, abolish
I
the
see
ATF.
firsthand the work that so many at the ATF do to protect us from violence. They're dedicated, they're professional, and they're effective. They don't write the laws.
They
What
sure
you're
think
doing
they
right
do.
now.
Just to go
Tell
out
that to
and
rare breed
enforce
triggers.
those laws and protect
Change
the public
definitions.
from a wide range
Reinterpret
of
things
threats.
as they see fit.
When I was U.S. Attorney,
They don't
our
write
office
the laws.
partnered
That's
with the ATF
freaking
and the
cute.
Cleveland Police as they
cool.
doggedly
Oh, man.
investigated.
This is the
and
first time
brought a
I've heard
case
this guy speak,
involving
and
the deadliest home arson.
I sure
in
don't
Cleveland
like
history.
him.
No.
Killed
This
9
this
people,
Chipman 2.0.
including 8 kids. I also saw the ATF partner with the FBI and our office, first to find and then to bring to justice a bigot who drove from Indiana to outside Toledo to torch the largest mosque in Ohio. And last, and certainly not least, I have partnered with the ATF for decades in its crucial fight against gun violence. You know, whether it was taking a single
They never care
violent
about the
recidivist
tobacco.
off the street,
They never
marijuana,
care about the
or
alcohol.
putting together a big
This is
racketeering
strictly
case
the
against a
president's
violent
gun
gang in
control
Youngstown,
enforcement
Ohio.
brigade.
I have seen the ATF work
Waco,
with other law
Ruby
enforcement
Ridge,
to make so many of our communities safer.
Fast and Furious.
As we emerge from this pandemic, we've got to recognize that many Americans still face fear and isolation, not because of a virus, but because of an epidemic of firearms violence. It's not a new problem, and it has many causes. That's why it's going to take an all-hands-on-deck partnership approach to address that issue. And the ATF will be there.
Yeah, but you won't.
Nope.
If confirmed, I promise to support the men and the women of the ATF and to do everything in our power to protect the people of this nation every single day. Thank you.
Pass constitutional carry.
Please.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you all for coming. By the way, he was responsible for the weather as well. Thank you,
What?
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't fall down the steps.
Yep, just in time for the early bird special.
Yep.
Yep.
So, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
But,
First of all, I think Biden was in rare form today. A couple of AFTs. Haven't heard that one in a while.
yeah, he was beginning to slur his
Dolo.
words.
Yep. Yep, deer in Kevlar vest. Another fan favorite.
Yeah. So, to sum it up, the guy you just saw on screen is Biden's nominee to run the AFT. And like we said throughout the live stream, this dude is endorsed by Bloomberg's Every Town for Gun Safety. And that's really all you need to know. But he's also supported assault weapons bans, universal gun registration, all that jazz. And he's a piece of crap.
And you could just see their interactions, all the ass kissing that he was doing.
Yep.
He's being put there to be an inside man for Biden that you could have on speed dial 1 when he needs his gun control bidding done. he gets Dettelbach on the phone and it happens.
Yeah.
Right now it's rare breed. Maybe it'll be, any aftermarket trigger company or magazines or whatever. He's got his man in there, and that's what he wants, is a true believer, a yes man that he can have on speed dial.
Yeah. And moving on from that, another takeaway from this little press conference is the ban on homemade firearms. Now, they're saying any parts such as pistol frames or unfinished lowers.
Yeah,
slide, they mention firearm receivers, unfinished firearm receivers, but they also said firearm parts. So does that mean triggers, magazines, anything?
It makes everything so freaking complicated now. Like my SIG 320 there, the serial number is on the trigger pack. Right. So now do I have an illegal ghost gun because my slide doesn't have a serial number on it?
Your frame doesn't.
My frame doesn't? Like, where does this end? Is every single part going to be serialized?
Right, and they're trying to rewrite the law, which is...
It's funny that Dettelbach said that they don't do that.
Which is exactly what they're doing.
Exactly what they're doing.
And,
Congress writes laws.
Exactly. They're sidestepping Congress. They're sidestepping the Constitution. And all to get rid of ghost guns, but, it leaves everything else in limbo, because they say firearm parts. Well, what the hell do you determine to be a firearm part?
Yep.
Block of aluminum?
Yeah.
Hunk
of plastic.
Hunk of plastic. And it's just ridiculous, and I'm interested to see where this goes, but you can be sure that our foundation is getting involved right now.
Yep. If you're not already following the National Foundation for Gun Rights, if you're not a donor, if you're not a supporter in whatever way you're capable of being, you really need to get with the program. No one's doing more to fight for your rights on the legal front of this battle, and it's just as important. Obviously, NAGR kicks all kinds of ass legislatively, and we're going to be keeping Dettelbach out of the ATF, but there's the legal side of it as well, and you can make a tax-deductible contribution to help us with this lawsuit to fight back against this ridiculous quote-unquote ghost gun ban, the punishing American craftsman ban.
Yeah, not only that, but it's going to expand their firearms database, which is a gun registry. Exactly. And we all know that registration is the first step towards confiscation. We've seen it in Germany. We've seen it in other countries across the world. And it's truly a scary time that we're in with Joe Biden in office, making all these actions by executive fiat. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll keep you updated. But
we're going to have, obviously, pay attention to your emails. We got content coming out. We're going to have a more in-depth analysis of what this whole gun control package means coming out on YouTube with Chris Stone, Chris Arnett, and Austin Hine. They're going to unpack everything. So if you want all the details on it, stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the National Association for Gun Rights on YouTube.
Yeah.
And if you want to do something for free right now, call your congressman, call your senator, tell them you oppose all this. Tell your senators to oppose the confirmation of Steve Dettelbach. Tell your congressman to sign on as a co-sponsor for Thomas Massey's bill to repeal gun-free school zones if you actually want to make a positive change to keep our kids safer. There's so many things that you can do as a law-abiding American pro-gun patriot that don't take any time. You can do it from your phone, from your computer. And it just takes all of us making some noise to really get stuff done. That's how we stop Chipman, and that's how we're going to stop Dettelbach, and that's how we're going to fight back against all this.
Yep.
Should we wrap it up there?
That's all I got to say. So
all right.
Stay tuned. We'll keep you updated, and
thanks for tuning in live. See ya.